moments with Rogers Memorial Hospital. Well, when we hear the term PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, we most often think of veterans responding to traumatic events of war.
Yeah, the reality is, though, that other types of trauma can cause PTSD, and it impacts more than 24 million Americans in their lifetime. We are here now with Sue McKenzie and Dr. Wetterneck from Rogers Memorial Hospital. PTSD can be a result of things you've told us, things like sexual assault, car accidents even, and unexpected death, and other traumatic events. In fact, you brought along a story about a man whose father committed suicide when he was very young. So let's take a look at that.
When I was 5, I was in kindergarten. I was excited to come home. I remember getting to the driveway, and that's when I saw the ambulances, and I was confused walking up. And first thing I saw was my mom crying. There was a body bag being brought up from the basement doors. My next door neighbor, Clara, was there, and my mom said to go with her, and I just remember asking why. And then I was forced to watch Arthur and not look back into my house. My biggest thing was I didn't feel anyone could connect with me, and no one made the effort to talk to me about it, so I just bottled it up. After I addressed my issues, I know that they're not going to disappear, but I know that when something's happening, I have to be self-aware, and I do open up to my friends a lot more. Being a part of that experience of having my dad commit suicide, it's going to touch people different ways. I'm going to let people know I've been there, I've been working through it, and the worst thing I've done was do it by myself, because you can't do everything by yourself.
Such a great point, and we pointed out that a lot of times people have shame about the event that causes them the trauma. So you provide specific treatment for PTSD. We know now that it definitely affects a lot of veterans who return from service, but it can affect people on a daily basis who suffer different types of trauma. How do people find you and get help?
Well, it would be nice if everyone just called in and said, hey, I think this is my issue, and not everyone's aware of that. But PTSD is really a disorder that's characterized by not wanting to talk about or come in contact with those thoughts and feelings, even though they're being pelted by those on a daily basis. And those things often result in other disorders occurring, like depression, substance, alcohol use disorders, a lot of sleep interference. So many people may come into a mental health treatment center asking about these other things and help for those other things, when really it's PTSD might be at the core of their issues.
I can imagine that's a natural response, to not want to talk about it, not want to relive it, not want to deal with it, you know, and just sort of like, well, maybe it'll go away. But I think that's the point, is it doesn't go away. It resurfaces with more and different kinds of issues. The shame that Molly mentioned, how do you help someone get past some of the shame when dealing with events that maybe they feel like that it's a shameful event, and help them to heal?
Well, we look at our program as trying to do two things. One of them is trying to reduce some of the symptoms, which is, we know that there's a lot of fear involved in this, but we also know that since there's so much shame, we also need to try to do something to have people connect with their values in their life, or develop values, because some people have experienced trauma at such a young age that they never really developed a sense of who they want to be. And so we ask them this question: who do you want to be from this point forward in your life? And we also suggest certain values that we think might be helpful for them. We focus a lot on something we call self-compassion. And self-compassion is designed to try to help people to be more kind to themselves instead of being so judgmental, to try to connect with other people as opposed to being so isolative and not wanting to talk about these things. And also just to learn that thoughts and feelings are part of our experience, but they don't have to define who we are as people.
So you work specifically with adolescents and young people, often in schools. What impact do you see PTSD having on teens, their relationships, and specifically their ability to succeed in school?
Well, just like Dr. Wetterneck said, this kind of numbing of emotions, you can imagine as a classroom teacher, you're all engaged and want to get the kids going in something, and you have someone who's not connecting to your very wonderful personality, and you begin to maybe step back from that kind of student because you don't feel so good being around someone who doesn't respond to you. Tony's story is actually interesting. He got really serious help when there was a breakup in college, and he talks about it as he thought the relationship was going along fine, and the girlfriend said, no, you're distant, you're not here, and that's when he began to say, I got to figure out what this means for me, so he could learn to connect it different ways. And you can see by the end of even that small clip, he was able to be pretty authentic about, I'm not all healed, I'm working on it, but I'm working on being here, and that's what's most important. And I realized that I don't need to be afraid of you. I mean, a lot of things we say to teachers is, kids aren't trustful for good reasons. And so it might take them a lot longer to believe that this safe classroom and safe adult is really going to be safe, because in their past, something that they thought was supposed to be safe wasn't. So they have a good reason to be the way they are. And it's tough, though, for educators.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's common, that somebody maybe has an issue like a breakup or something like that, that they think this is what I need help for, but really it's something that they've been burying from their past? Is that common?
Yeah.
Sure.
That's surprising to me. It sounds like it's really complicated. I mean, overall, trauma is a part of life, but it's very complicated. Is there hope for healing? Can you get past these incidents?
Yes. So while we can't remove something, I like to say our mind is additive. So we don't get rid of our experiences, but we can add new healthy experiences and try to process or reinterpret what's happened in our life so that we can be more functional moving forward.
Yeah, and in terms of getting treatment, how does that work? Because there's probably different methods that you use to try to help someone with that additive part of the process.
Right. There's kind of good news and not as good news here. And the good news is there are a number of treatments that have a lot of evidence and empirical support for, and I'd recommend that people actually look for providers that actually have a research base to the work that they do. There are other treatments out there, some of which may or may not be effective, but they haven't been studied yet.
So you want to look for something that's research specific to PTSD, where you can learn some of those skills. A lot of people reach out for help. I've seen it in my own life, friends, family, and they maybe don't get the help they need. And what I always say to people is don't give up. It's a matter of connecting with the right people, the right place, with the right experience, and proven track records.
Have expectations for health. I find in mental health, because a lot of us weren't trained, you know what to do if your child breaks their leg. Not many of us are prepared for mental health problems. And I think about some of the years that people spend in getting therapy and they're not getting better, and they think, oh, well, this is what it's supposed to be. It's a long haul. And I say, you know what? Have benchmarks, have expectations. And if you're not getting better, move to and search out those evidence-based practices. A therapist isn't a therapist. There are specific skills and strategies that we as consumers of mental health care can be aware of and look for, and healing is really very possible if we can do that.
Yeah, and you have wonderful stories of recovery and healing that people can see. Not just Tony's full stories, but other stories of recovery as well. If you visit rogersinhealth.org, you can also learn more about the specific care offered by Rogers Memorial Hospital related to PTSD or other mental health concerns as well at rogershospital.org. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here.
Appreciate
your time.